I've been invited to give a brief talk on this subject of the International Cost Construction Measurement Standard, which is a little 10-minute brief before Mary does her little brief. It's not on your list of items to look at, but it's probably relevant to one of the later papers you're going to have today, which the last paper talks about ICMS and life cycle costing and rest. So I'm going to give you a little background of what ICMS is about, so that you can have some idea of where it's coming from. It's the International Construction Measurement Standard has been in place since 2017, and there's a revised standard being published this month, which will deal with life cycle costing. And I'll just give you a brief background so that they have information on this. By the way, I'm a member of the International Construction Measurement Standard Committee, as is Charles Mitchell, who's in the audience here and is going to talk to you later as well. So just give you a bit of background where it's coming from. One of the issues in industry is knowing what a construction cost is, and one of the biggest problems, we don't have to go, we've had it here in this country already, the biggest overrun in a construction project that everybody knows about, from infants to adults or to old people, the children's hospital. So there we go. There's a reporting system. Are we using standard reporting system? How do we report? What do we report? What do we leave off the report? The idea here is to try and get to a situation where internationally we all agree what should be in the report and what be said in the report. And this is the issue, to try and get us all to working out the same sheet. And this is what the standards are about. They're not about measurement. They're not about that sort of thing. Even though the word measurement's in the name of the standard, it's about standard cost reporting and getting the cost reporting there. These are examples. We're not the only ones. These are projects. These are the amount of money these projects ran. Metro started off. Sorry. Being 1.6 billion over budget. The Channel Tunnel was the massive. It's still leading ahead at 21 billion over budget. But these are massive amount of money that states spend and don't get the predictions right. And obviously, for every penny that's spent on these projects, overspent or not being predicted in the first place, either these projects would never have gone ahead in the first place, or we have to sacrifice some other major issue because of these projects are taken. So this is kind of an important thing. There are no standards, by the way. Let's be clear. The standards are national standards or local standards are invented by the particular institutions concerned. And in the last 30, 40 years, we've actually splintered more. I'm a member of the RICS. RICS would have been set up as a standard 40 years ago. RICS is not the standard that's followed everywhere in the planet at this stage. Every national country sets up its own standard. So the idea is to get back to a situation where we kind of all agree to work to the same standard. So the implications of not having standards, inability to compare project costs to investment risks, lack of transparency. We've had a perfect example here, as I said before, underinvestment in construction projects in the first place, and then time and cost overruns. All those things. That, by the way, BIM is meant to help us resolve as well, isn't it? What are the aims of ICMS? Construction costs to be consistently and transparently benchmarked. The cause of differences in costs between projects can be identified. Properly informed decisions on design and location of construction projects be made. And data to be used with confidence for project financing and investment program and decision making. So it's not just about predicting costs, but it's also having been able to build up the proper databases. Because again, on all situations, if we have reliable databases, we can make more informed decisions about future projects on that basis. This is the coalition. These are the parties that are behind this. I mean, you can almost recognise RICS, RIBA, all of various organisations all around the planet, FIG, CIOB. They're all part of this coalition. They've all agreed to get involved with this and agree and sign up to implementing this particular standard. So it's not just quantities of errors. The official launch of ICMS was in 2017 in London. Since then, Canada. Correct myself there, Canada. ICMS 1, just to briefly, as a cost report system, it covers every type of construction, not just building. We're going down, we listed out the various different infrastructure projects there. The next level, we've divided the cost into simple between associated capital costs and capital costs. That's what you start with, and then you subdivide within that into very simple elements, and then at a non-mandatory level, you can apply your own national system. Everybody has a different cost reporting system or national system. You can fit your own cost reporting system back into that system there. These are the project categories we have, as I said, with various infrastructure, whether very much based on the UNI ASIC code, so we're trying to work to standards that are already there. And then along with the cost data, we give you the information about the project. So what we call project attributes, the principal characteristics of a project, are listed out, so that in addition to having your cost information, you have information about the type of contract, the location, all of those good things will be brought into the values and descriptors of the project. With this goes another thing called International Property Measurement Standards. This is in line with the International Construction Measurement Standard. We also agreed a process whereby we would work to agreeing standards of how we measure buildings. Up to now, by the way, there is no agreed standard. The property guys do a different way to the construction guys. I as a QS will quote an area of a building. My guy in the property side could come with a completely different answer. And he will be correct, because he's working to a different set of rules. The idea now is that we all work off the same rules. So when your client gets an area of his building, the valuer and the construction people will be all talking the same language and giving the same data. It's amazing, in Denmark I was told there were 10 different ways of defining the area of the building. So crazy, crazy. America, every state, every city sets up its own system. So the idea here is that we all buy in to reporting at an international level, one way of measuring buildings. So there's examples there of, I think that's a apartment or residential building, an industrial building and an office building, and there are producing further standards to do with these. There's 3 at the moment in multiple languages. You can get them, download them free off the site, by the way. There's nothing, you don't have to pay for them, they're all there to be used. So the idea of these, having these standards that global investment decisions can then be made, we're not on at both national and international level, feasibility studies and development praise, if we all start using the similar standard, we'll all be able to work to the same system. Cost planning, control, cost analysis, cost modelling, all those good things. And by the way, this will be BIM compatible. That's what we're working to, that has been worked towards at the moment, the standard we worked at that. And even in dispute resolution work, which is my business when I'm actually doing some of that. And then reinstatement costs for the purpose of insurance and all the other things, evaluation of assets and liabilities. So because we're both talking the same language, the valuers and the construction cost reporters, the valuations can also talk the same language because we're all working to the same square metre area and all those good things, so we're all talking the same language. Ultimately, ICMS 2 then is the next stage we're on, which is about to finish now. And this is to do with incorporation of the whole cost of it, not just the capital cost of it, but the whole life cycle cost of it, and getting the standard reporting on the whole life cycle cost of it. That first meeting we had is last year in June. We had a further meeting in Dubai in 2018. And the standard will be published very shortly. Just to give you a background of what we're doing here, it ties back in again with the ISO 15685. An acronym is CHROME, so we have the life cycle costing plus construction, renewal, operation, maintenance, and end-of-life costs. So we've got them all bracketed in here, and that's how you will break down your forecasts of your, either your analysis of your completed project or your forecast of your proposed project. Slight change between the ICMS 1, which we have published now, this new one, is that the associated costs in red there will now be broken down into these further subdivisions of new costs, operation costs, maintenance costs, and end-of-life costs, in addition to just the construction costs. So the deal is, end of September is the issue, the ICMS 2 will be available on the website. So again, free, just a matter of reading it and getting yourself up familiar with it. This is again the development of ICMS 2. As I said, there's the breakdown of how we're going to set up the relationship between the breakdown of costs and all those good things. That's the further development of what we're talking about here. We still have the project breakdowns as before. We'll have our elemental costs, so now our next level we'll further break down from just associated costs and capital costs to further break. And then finally, we have within the level 3 cost groups, we have further breakdowns of the various issues there. Finally, development of this ICMS 2 should improve our information on project attributes, provision of BIM-based cost management, is being made compatible with that, A data standard for software vendors is available. So again, if whoever is in the software business, they can get this downloaded and put it on their system. And we have an IT people involved with the standards committee that can be engaged with on these issues. Provision of emerging technologies such as IBS or prefabricated structural building modules have been dealt with. And we've done a bit of more clarification of some of the original terms on the ICMS form. So that's the end of my little presentation, just to put you in the picture. Any questions?
Just wondering, is there evidence of an appetite among consultant quantity surveyors in Ireland and Irish main contractors to embrace this idea and to actually use it?
Well, there's two problems for QSs. As a society, chartered surveyors are mandated to implement it.
Okay.
So we've got about 12 months to get everybody up and running and educated doing this. Second thing, we have been talking to government, and one of the things we want to ensure is that the national building elements, which is on the building side, that we use, matches this almost 90-95% of what we're using here. So our plan is that within the next 12 months that we will have ICMS adopted in replacement of the national building elements, which hasn't, by the way, been looked at since 1993. It's a little bit outdated at this stage. So we're going to look at that. The third part is because we're dealing with engineering issues, and in this particular standard has breakdowns for engineering projects. I think there's only 3 project types at the moment on the public side that have a breakdown of costs for that. This will give a greater variety for the government side for engineering projects that have the standards to use these standards.
So there'll be a bit of a uniformity then between government agencies and consultant quantity surveyors right across the board?
We accept that our private sector will not change unless the national building elements is changed. And the first thing to do is to get that changed, and we've had that on our target for a number of years. The government themselves won't change it because the original agency that looked after that has sort of, they were put out of business some time ago. But our plan now is that at this stage we'll get this up and running because this is ready-made. And it's been talked about across the planet. I mean, it's not just, I was out just back from Malaysia for a conference in Malaysia, and we had ministers and everybody else all talking about adopting this. And again, they had major problems, and Malaysia had to get a new government into because their previous government was running away with their budgets and spending the money. So now it's kind of, all governments need something to be able to benchmark, and they don't have a reliable system that's there. So that's what's going on. I don't know if they're IT guys there, but we seem to have lost picture. I'm on standby. Yeah. So that's where it's come. So and there will be training courses and the rest on how to use it. But as I say, we're hoping ours. The biggest problem is going to be for our British college because their cost analysis system and cost planning system is entirely different than the basic one that's been chosen here.
Are they not buying into this?
They are buying it. They're absolutely selling it.
Nice change, isn't it?
So this is the reason why it's this is why it's not just it's an international system. I wear a tie here from a crowd called the PAQS, Pacific Association of Quantity Surveyors. There's about 14 associations of QSs in the other side of the world, and they are bought into this. They're part of this. The Australians, Fiji, whatever you want to call it, they're all, it's like the World Cup.